Alright, let's make this quick. I've pretty much got Has 5 on lockdown at this point, so here are my completely unscripted opinions on the relics in DRG Survivor. Okay, so armor grease, we're gonna put this in D tier. It's kind of okay. You effectively get 10% dodge with this, 10% chance to nullify damage. The condition is that you keep moving, which is a fairly easy condition to fulfill. You never really stop moving in this game. Due to the structure of the game incentivizing you to move around the map and collect all the minerals that are around. Gives you extra gold, extra XP early on. Gold directly translates essentially to extra levels. So this one's okay. Some free survivability. Barley bulb juice. This one has a bugged interaction with armor grease. Hold on a second. Actively detrimental. Okay, yeah, great. So Barley Bulb has a negative interaction with Armor Grease. If you stand still while both of these are equipped, your movement speed will be reduced to 0. What this is supposed to do is that it's supposed to increase your movement speed while you're stood still. Unfortunately, you never really stood still for very long, and certainly not long enough to keep this stacked up. For a decent speed boost on average. So no, this is pretty bad since having this pretty much precludes you from being able to take this if like none of the good options are available. So points against that. BLT ration pack, pretty decent. This is like 70 HP and 2% missing HP per second regen. The way that HP regen in this game works is that you regenerate a percentage of your missing XP every interval. I think it's like 10 seconds or something roughly. I need to go around and check that. So regen effects very powerful. They get if you play around like half HP or something constantly, you're going to be maintaining your health pretty readily with just the regen you have available from your upgrades, and this adds like not negligible chunk to that, as well as increasing your max HP so that you have more missing HP to regenerate. So this is actually a pretty extreme boost to your survivability. I'm pretty happy to take this anytime like a non-damage relic isn't being offered, and my runs do feel notably safer when I do have this. So yeah, C tier. Uh, let's see. The burn belt. So this and the freeze belt. Both of these create an explosion effect when you take damage that knocks back nearby enemies, thereby creating a safety zone around you. What this allows you to do is it allows you to move through density without taking like multiple successive hits, and that's very strong because in this game regularly what happens is when you're digging through terrain to manipulate enemies into bunching up for AoE or escaping them. In the early game, when you're too weak to actually fight, what happens is you'll get a stream of enemies moving along the wall that you're trying to draw through. When they're spawning, off the edge of a screen and moving up that wall to path around to reach you. What this allows you to do is you just draw through. Normally, you bust through the other side. You just walk through the stream. You only take one hit, rather than like 3 or whatever you would normally take if the stream was intact. Both of these, like, the cold one is marginally better, but honestly, both these do, like, the cold is pretty corollary to its main effect, which is the explosion. So both these end up in C tier. Pretty decent. Let's see. The XP on hit. This one, there is okay, the XP that this gives you it's irrespective of how much damage you take on the hit that triggers it. So what you can do is you can game this by sitting in the lava on Magma Core to get constant ticks of like negligible damage and generate a stream of XP. I tried this; doesn't really give you very much XP at all. By the time you get your first supply pod, you're late enough that the XP that this is giving you is like pretty much chump change. This basically does nothing. So basically does nothing. Let's put this in F tier. Never really gonna get this early enough for it to make a difference. Gold bullets. This gives you damage. This gives you damage based on the amount of gold that you have in reserve. The problem is gold is really nice to spend actually. And the amount of damage that this gives you is at like a 5 gold to 1% damage ratio. So realistically, what this means is that by the end of the wave, you're gonna have gathered like 100 to 120 gold if that. Frequently less. That's going to be something between like 10 to 24% damage bonus, and then that's all going to be gone. That's all going to be gone. Like by the start of the next wave. Like, and that's assuming you don't, have to reroll a lot because it keeps giving you 3 bricked options mid wave. So really, gold tip bullets, like, you can theoretically get some damage by the end of the wave, which is, when you need damage the most, so that's helpful, but, it never really is impactful enough in the long term to, be a powerhouse by itself. Pay to win console, this thing is, okay, gold is really nice to have. And while this does give you a hefty bonus, while it's active, it's never active for long enough for that to matter. So this gives you this doubles your damage, gives you an extra 100% damage, because at the cost of draining basically 1 gold a second. The average run of this game on Has 5 is going to take something between like 25 and 30, like 25 to 35 minutes, depending on what you're doing, how much you're optimizing, like how strong your loadout is. You're never going to get enough gold to actually be able to keep this running, and it stops working when you hit 0, so I'm told. And I had to be told that because I've never actually taken this, because the description tells you everything you need to know. Right, let's see. Tripod. Boosted, reload, and fire rate stats while you're standing still. This game, there are so many reasons to move around in this game. You have to avoid enemies, you have to gather minerals, because so much of your power, like, gold is essentially just free levels, and everything else drops XP or gives you gold. Or it's Nitra, which we'll get to later, which has its own set of caveats. So this thing, anything that incentivizes standing still, not very good. But at least this one isn't bugged to catastrophically drain your movement to 0 like barley bulb juices. So this gets to be 1 tier higher, outside of actively detrimental. Red sugar. This one, +2 max HP. Every red sugar picks up, you get 3 red sugar every single node that you mine, which is assuming you're actually damaged and you can pick it up. That's +6 max HP every red sugar node. You don't pick up that many red sugar nodes over the course of an entire run, just because you don't really have much of an incentive to go out of your way to grab it. The problem with red sugar is that the healing you get from it isn't scaled to your missing HP like health regen is. And so, when you're low, it doesn't heal you by that much. It's like 15 HP per chunk or something, so 45 total. It's okay, obviously. If you're damaged, you're going to go for it, but this isn't like... The vast majority of your regen over the course of a run is just going to be from missing health regen if you play around 50%. And you probably should, like, for many reasons, play around 50%, just because health is a resource you can't always, like, manipulate enemies to stack up in a favorable way for you to be able to pick up all the XP without losing too much time on the map. And so often you're in a situation where you want to take damage just so that you can get into a better position to move enemies, or take damage to pick up XP that you otherwise would have to circle around a lot to be able to reach. And so health regen is really good. Static healing not as good. This just doesn't give you very much HP at all, relative to the amount that you can get from, like, legendary or epic HP drop. So yeah, F tier. Basically does nothing. Let's see, reflex booster. This one gives you dodge and taking damage. We don't have, at least I don't know the numbers for this. But I doubt it's higher than 10% from armor grease, and armor grease is basically active permanently. So we're going to put this 1 tier lower than armor grease. Just because I feel like with this game, mitigating damage by small amounts doesn't really do very much, because the way the scaling works is that you're either, like, dramatically overpowered and you're wiping the screen all the time, or you're, like, incredibly underpowered and enemies are building up. And theoretically there's like a sweet spot in the middle where your scaling is around the build-up of enemy strength, but that is a sweet spot. It's a very narrow band of performance, and you're rarely going to be in that narrow band. The game's well designed in the sense that exploders exist, so that it doesn't matter as much if you're underpowered, because you always have a means of, like, nuking enemy density. But exploders are limited. They're kind of finicky. So yeah, really, like, it's best to play this game under the assumption that, like, you're never gonna be able to stand a fight, or you're just gonna be, like, be able to wipe everything instantly. And so, you know, narrow incremental improvements to your survivability, I don't really value very much. It has to be a dramatic difference, like these three above, or it just doesn't do anything. Can't decide if this should be an E or F tier. Probably F. Okay. What? Okay, XP scanner. This one gives you XP randomly while you're running through walls. Unfortunately, it's not very much XP, and similar to the other XP granting relic, you like you're not the amount the period when the amount of XP that this gives you actually makes a appreciable difference to your scaling is like before the first resupply. So really, this effectively does nothing. F tier. The Vitaminer pills. This one heals you on leveling up. Not as good as you know, the healing you get is like it's static. It's the same problem as like the as red sugar in general not being very good. However, this does have like there is one common scenario where this will help you a lot, and that's when you're using the resupply pod to nuke a large clump of enemies. Sometimes you're gonna misestimate, and you're gonna have to, you know, take a bunch of damage from like a layer of enemies that you missed with a pod in order to actually reach the middle of it to get to the pod and all the XP. And there's usually going to be so much XP there that you're going to get a few level ups from it. And this is, you know, this is nice to offset the damage that you take from that. So let's put all of this in. Yeah, let's put this in E tier. Well, probably D tier actually. Yeah, let's put this in D tier. So as far as survivability goes, this isn't as good as the BLT or the belts, which provide a marked increase in survivability, but it does help you in that one common scenario that you can end up in on stages 1 and 2. So if you don't get anything good, sure, why not? It doesn't do nothing. All that considered though, let's move this down a tier, move this down a tier, gold bullets, probably move this down a tier, because all of these are dramatically worse than all of these. So to keep things in perspective and, you know, represent accurately like how these actually perform. Yeah. Oh, in fact, on that note, problem with the XP scanner is that it's a generic artifact in the sense that you can stack multiple of these, and same with the Vitaminer pills actually. This goes down a tier. Any artifact that you can get multiples of doesn't remove it from the pool. Same with the red sugar actually. So a lot of things, a lot of these artifacts, yeah. Taking them doesn't make it more likely for you to get the good artifacts in the future, because you're not removing anything from the RNG pool. So all of these go down 1 tier. This is like not really an obvious thing, but it, like, considering how good the actual good relics are, you really do want to be, you know, maximizing your chance to get these. So in fact, I'm going to put these in actively detrimental, just because of how much better the actual good options are. Gold scanner. While this is a generic artifact, the actual effect of it is like pretty decent. You get a pretty good amount of gold, and gold contributes to a lot of scaling. Every single thing you buy in the mid-level shop is not mid-level, between level shop is essentially the same as leveling up. Over the course of a Has 5 run, you're going to end up somewhere probably between like level 55 and 65, and potentially, you know, you're going to be buying like you're going to be buying. I want to say like on average, you probably buy like 1.5 items with gold in the shop every single wave. So it's you know, it's reasonable. But most importantly though, the shop gives you a good selection of things to buy, and that means that you get to hedge towards buying the best stats available. So that you know, that's something that increases the value of gold. Even so, if this is a generic artifact, so while it's actually quite powerful, in its effect, it's going to have to like go down a tier just because it doesn't, you know, remove itself from the pool when you take it. Let's see. So crit goggles. These are decent. These like increase your crit damage by like these increase your crit stat by an ungodly amount. It's like 30% crit and 100% crit damage at the cost of 30% of your raw damage. Now, the problem with this is that raw damage directly influences your crit damage, and also, because it's an artifact, that minus 30% is multiplicative with your overall damage. It doesn't stack additively with the damage bonuses you get from level ups. And so that 30% is actually going to be like a bigger deal than 30% 30% damage from a level up would be. So this is like probably one of the most overrated relics in the entire roster, and because of that, I'm thinking I want to compress everything a little bit. Let's move these down into like into do nothing. And because of that, this is I'm probably going to put this at C tier. Like this is obviously this gets a lot better late game, but even then, 30% like minus 30% damage is holding this back. Nitra powder converts 1 Nitra to half a point of crit. This is really good. Realistically, you're going to be ending your runs on about 100 Nitra, maybe a bit more. We'll get to why that is in a second. So this is basically just giving you 50% 50% critical hit chance, which is real nice. Now the reality of this game right now is due to how the scaling works, you really want to be putting yourself ahead of that curve. And because like when you're ahead of that curve, pretty much the game just stops mattering. And so everything that gives you damage is dramatically better than everything that doesn't give you damage. With the exception of gold. Well, in fact, gold bullets, we'll move that up a tier. So Nitra Powder, very good. One of the best relics in the game. In fact, second best relic in the game. Why is the second best relic in the game in B tier? We'll get to that in a second. Right. We can't really put this off any longer. We need the context of this to, well, to really make the following two items make sense. So Pickled Nitra, the pickle. This is single-handedly probably the most meta-warping item I've ever seen in a video game. Like, this is basically the only thing here that matters. What this does is this converts every single point of Nitra that you hold in your reserve into 2% boosted damage and minus 0.5% speed. So minus half a point of speed plus 2 points, 2% of damage. What this means is by picking this up, like the game state at the current time doesn't matter when you pick this up, as long as you're metagaming a little bit and preparing yourself for the possibility of this being offered to you. And it is, because of the small pool of artifacts, this is going to get offered to you basically every single round that you play. So realistically, ending a run on 100 Nitra in your reserve, that's like nowhere near the maximum amount of Nitra you can possibly have, obviously. You need to like spend some of your Nitra to get down to that, but that's fine because Nitra, spending Nitra is actually pretty good for your progression overall. But what that means is 100 Nitra. That means triple damage. You're getting plus 200%. That's plus 200%. So you're dealing 100% damage. You get plus 200% on top of that. You deal 300% damage. You get triple damage for minus 50% movement speed. This minus 50% movement speed seems to be additive to your movement speed modifier. So what that means is if you get plus 50% movement speed from level up and from level up upgrades and the shop, you're offsetting that 100 Nitra. So you're essentially just like, at the cost of having to prioritize movement speed and not actually getting faster, you're converting every single movement speed pickup into 4% damage per 2% damage per percentage of movement speed. Which means that, by rarity, movement speed suddenly becomes your best damage boost in the game. And that percentage damage is actually much better than the other percent damage boosts that you get from the level ups in shop, because it's multiplicative with all of those, rather than additive. So I don't know, I can't really be bothered to go into explaining what difference that makes, but you can essentially look at it as level up damage modifiers having diminishing returns, whereas categories of damage boost that are multiplicative with that do not. So 200% damage from Pickled Nitra is going to be 200% damage. Not 100% sure about how that stacks with other artifact damage modifiers, but it's such a staggering amount that it really doesn't matter. So this is like game-breakingly strong right now. You take this every single time it's offered and you play around it. So to recap, you prioritize movement speed, you spend your Nitra so that like you spend your Nitra between rounds so that you don't have too much in case this gets offered to you next round. Like, you don't want to have so low movement speed that you literally cannot make it to the drop pod to get to the next stage. But at the same time, like, it doesn't matter if you go below neutral speed, even like significantly below neutral speed, just because at that point you'll be dealing so much damage that nothing can even get close to you. You still don't want to be too slow, just because you don't want to lose out on the ability to move around the map and like mine progression minerals or gold or whatever, or like more nitra. But really, the downsides of this don't matter anywhere as much as they could, and the upsides are pretty much infinite. They trivialize the game. So S tier and it's not even close. The existence of this is pushing everything else down by 2 tiers, pretty much. The Nitra scanner. This is this gives you more Nitra, more damage, right? Absolutely not. This is actively detrimental. Not only is this a generic upgrade, a generic artifact that doesn't remove itself from the pool after you take it. You can get multiple of these. This essentially makes your Nitra reserve like just uncontrollable. Like you don't have the luxury of deciding I'm going to stop mining walls so that I don't get more Nitra. No, you have to do that. That's how you move around. That's how you manipulate enemies into moving either like not killing you or bunching up in ways that you can that lets you nuke them down and then easily pick up the XP afterwards. So essentially randomly gaining Nitra and like not having control of your movement speed just by playing the game, that's absolutely not. If I could put this a tier lower than all the other actively detrimental relics, I would, but for now this goes in here. I feel like that would be a little bit extra. Ammo box, whatever this thing is actually called. So this thing like minus 15% movement speed, plus 60% fire rate. Since we've established that we can directly convert movement speed to damage, this is essentially plus 60% fire rate, minus 30% damage. And all of a sudden that seems a lot less attractive, doesn't it? So there are a few issues, right, with fire rate, and that's the fact that weapons aren't firing all the time. They're reloading. Like, some weapons don't even use the fire rate stat at all. Like, weapons with a magazine of 1. Or weapons, like, with a fast enough fire rate, and a long enough reload that, like, the ratio is, like, heavily skewed 10 to 1 or something like that. Like the, the boomstick with a certain setup, like, after you've gotten a decent number of upgrades in it, because you will have to take fire rate on some levels, or, like... I'm not going to list everything right now. But this, essentially means, like... So most weapons have, I'm going to estimate, like, probably an 80 to 20 ratio of, like, firing to reload. And what that essentially means is that, like, the actual amount of extra DPS you get from this is, like, it's like plus 50% DPS that you get from that 60 fire rate, assuming you're using a weapon that actually makes good use of fire rate. And so, like, plus 50% DPS, minus 30%, like, this is on a similar level to gold bullets. It's not very good. So we're gonna put in the same tier as that. And yeah, that's like solely for the reason that Pickled Nitra is like, it's never not worth it to take this. You always assume that you have Pickled Nitra. It's offered to you like basically every single run. And it's strong enough that you have to assume that you're gonna get it. So yeah, not really sure what else to say. Until Pickled Nitra is like nerfed or reworked, unfortunately, like, it's just warping the existence of every other artifact around it. So yeah, that's really it. I think like maybe I'd revise the placements of some of these, but honestly, this is so strong and these are so weak that it just doesn't matter whatsoever. So I'm gonna revisit this once the game's rebalanced, but for now, this is what we have. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. I guess I might respond. A bit of goblin though, so I might not. But either way, thanks for watching, and hope to come back to this soon.